So whenever you do not have split tunneling configured, all the traffic will be going over the VPN tunnel to the ASA. Whenever you actually have split tunneling, and let's say this is the 10.1.1.0 network with a 24-bit mask, the ASA tells the client what traffic should the VPN client encrypt and send to the ASA, and then for everything else, all the other traffic will actually be sent in the clear to the internet. So again, let's say we actually have only one network behind the ASA, and that network is the 10.1.1.0 network. The remote client, in the case of a VPN or split tunneling, it will only encrypt traffic to that network. And then let's say it wants to go to Cisco.com out on the internet, then that traffic actually will be going in the clear. So again, with no split tunnel, all traffic will be going over the tunnel. So again, in the case of no split tunnel, all traffic will be going over the VPN tunnel. And in the case that you actually have split tunnel, only the traffic that you specify in the Cisco ASA, in this case the 10.1.1.0, will be going over the tunnel, and everything else will be going on the clear. Let's go over how to configure the Cisco ASA to terminate AnyConnect VPN client connections. As I mentioned before, the Cisco ASA can be configured using the Cisco's Adaptive Security Device Manager, or ASDM, and this tool becomes really handy whenever configuring connections or VPN connections in the Cisco ASA, specifically to remote access VPN. So to do so, we're actually going to be using the AnyConnect VPN wizard, or the VPN wizard, which actually makes this task or the configuration extremely easy for the administrator. So here I'm going to go select wizards, VPN wizards, and then AnyConnect VPN wizard. Moving along, actually you will get the screen that I'm showing in here, which is an introductory screen that tells you that the wizard is about to configure the ASA to accept VPN connections from the AnyConnect VPN clients. Once you click on next, the next thing that you will be configuring, and this is fairly similar to the clientless SSL VPN configuration that we went over in previous lessons, but you will be asked to configure a connection profile name. In my case, the connection name is called My Connection Profile. Then we're also going to be terminating the VPN on the outside interface of the Cisco ASA. So we select the outside, we click on next. You're asked onto what protocols you want the VPN clients to be using, either SSL or IPsec, and keep in mind that for IPsec it's only IKE version 2. So in this case, we're actually going to be terminating both SSL and IPsec clients. You're also asked to install or manage identity certificates. We're actually just using the self-signed certificate from the Cisco ASA, but if you actually have a certificate authority server, you can click on manage and add the specific certificates. So again, we're actually just using the one that the ASA generated here. We click on next, and then you're prompted to enter the client images. So the ASA can automatically upload the latest AnyConnect package to the client device when access the ASA. You can even use regular expressions to match the user agent of a browser to an image. So for example, to actually use a user agent and prompt them to download the Windows-based client or the Mac OS X-based client. So you can do that in here. Basically in here, we're actually going to do a very simplistic example. We're adding a new image name, and we're uploading that image from our desktop machine. So we're actually browsing already to my local hard drive and uploading the Mac OS X client to the ASA. You click on upload file, and the ASDM uploads the file to the Cisco ASA. There you see the file that is already uploaded to the ASA. You click on next. The next step is actually to configure the authentication method. And again, like I mentioned in the clientless SSL VPN lesson, you can use an external authentication server, whether it's Radius, TACAX, or LDAP, or actually use the local database. In this example, I'm actually clicking new, and we're actually going to be using the Radius protocol or Radius server. And the first thing that it asks you is to configure a server group name, and in my case, I put my Radius group as the name. We're going to be selecting Radius for authentication, and you enter the IP address of the server, which in this case is 192.168.1.88. That server resides in the management interface of the ASA. So we select the management interface, and of course we enter the server secret and confirm the secret. Once we click OK, you actually see that the AAA server group details is displayed in the dialog box of the wizard. You click on Next, and the next step is actually to configure the addresses that are going to be assigned to the client from the ASA, so the IPv6 or IPv4 addresses or the address pools. In this case, actually, we're going to be using IPv4 only, and we click on New to add a new IPv4 pool. The name of the pool is My IPv4 Pool, and then we actually start the address with 10.10.10.1 to .254, so the whole class C. And we enter the subnet mask, which is a 24-bit mask in this case. We click OK, and you actually see the client assignment or the client address pool in the configuration. Click on Next, and the next thing is actually to configure the network name resolution servers, or the DNS servers and WIN servers. In this case, actually, we're going to be only using DNS, and it's going to be 144.254.254.254 as the address. And the domain name is cisco.com. We click on Next, and the next step is actually to configure NAT exemption. Just like the client SSL VPN, we actually have the option to exempt VPN traffic from the network address translation from NAT on the ASA. So basically what this does is it allows the ASA to not translate the internal network whenever the VPN client is actually connecting. So if you are directly connecting to the ASA, the client itself can access the resources, the internal resources, by the private addresses or the actual physical addresses, not the translated addresses. So in here we actually click on that, we select the inside interface, and of course we specify the local networks. In this case, we're actually going to have all the IPv4 networks that reside in the inside interface of the ASA. Once you click on Next, it gives you the deployment options, information, and then a summary of the configuration that we just completed. Once you click on Finish, it uploads the configuration or pushes the configuration to the ASA, and then actually here you see the new connection profile that was actually created for us. We went over this in a few minutes just to explain every single detail, but you can actually configure this in the ASA within 2 minutes or so. It's extremely easy and extremely simple. So now that we actually have configured the ASA successfully to accept VPN connections or AnyConnect connections, let's actually connect with a client. And in this case, actually, I'm just hitting connect to the VPN configuration, and there I'm being prompted for my username and password. So I'm entering my username and password here. Once I'm actually connected, you see that I am connected to, in this case, it's actually a lab in RTP that I have. And basically, you see statistics of the connection, bytes sent, bytes received, the time that I have been connected, the IP address that I was assigned, in this case, the IPv4 address that I was assigned, the server address, and so on. You also see, other things like the web security, whether it's enabled or not, what proxy I'm connected to, and other options of the client. Again, this statistical information is very detailed and extremely useful for troubleshooting. In this case, we're actually using split tunneling. So here you actually see the secure routes, just like we actually explained before what split tunneling is. And you see the secure routes that were configured in the ASA. You also have the firewall tab for personal firewall specific information if you actually have one configured, and the message history telling you a high level overview of what actually happens in the connection. You can also export the statistics that you actually saw by clicking on the export stats, and also save it into a file. This is extremely helpful whenever you're actually troubleshooting a problem with a client that perhaps is not technical. And basically, instead of asking the client to read all the information on the screen, you can just say, okay, please save this information into a text file and then send it to me. And this is what I'm explaining and showing here. This is the output of the actual file. It can be fairly detailed. and it actually has all the information that we saw earlier in the statistics windows, the routes, and other information about the actual client machine.